You're now entering the Rambling Veteran Podcast, where we discuss the hard truths affecting combat veterans today. Depression, PTSD, suicide, both successes and failures. How the service branches treat us, how the VA treats us, and our own country, for whom we served. And we're leaving no stone unturned. These are their stories. Hear them, feel them, and let them be a call to action. What's up, everyone? I'm more than happy to introduce my brother, Trey Fagan, who is a retired Force Recon Marine and just an all-around inspiration. Trey is one of those guys you look at and you say, dang, this dude could totally kill me right now. But then he only comes at you and kills you with positive energy and encouragement. After hitting rock bottom, 3 of his Marine brothers helped him turn his life around and to be a leader, a loving family man, and commit his life to helping other veterans and their families by the numerous charities he has created. I traveled to a small beach community called Sneed's Ferry, North Carolina, where Trey met me on the boat that he uses to take veterans spearfishing and aid in their healing process. I hope Trey's story will draw attention and action to veterans in need, and Trey has been doing some great work since he retired from the active duty, and I hope that comes to light in this interview. Welcome to the Rambling Veteran, Episode 3. All right. Welcome to the Rambling Veteran Podcast. My name is Micah. This is Episode 3. We're in Sneed's Ferry, North Carolina, and this is my brother, Trey Fagan.
How you doing, Micah?
I'm good, brother. Good to meet you.
Good to see you, Micah.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for having me.
So, perfect day. Beautiful, we got the wind. It's super sunny, and there's a bunch of helicopters flying around. Bunch of birds, boats. So if you guys hear anything, we're just going to free flow. We're just blessed to be here out on this boat, bringing Trey's story to life. So tell the audience and tell me, who is Trey Fagan?
Yes, so Trey Fagan, retired Marine, reconnaissance, MARSOC Marine. I served 17 years in the Marine Corps, part of a 5th Force Recon, 3rd Recon, 2nd Force. I had the privilege to be a dive instructor and then finished my career at MARSOC as a Marine Raider. Through my military service, I had deployments to Kosovo, Iraq, OIF-1, and then a couple of deployments to Afghanistan. In 2016, I retired out of the Marine Corps with 100% disability through PTSD/TBI, and I'm currently now in Sneed's Ferry, a father, a husband, my wife Lauren, and I have 4 kids: Kaya, a 17-year-old, Osi, 7-year-old, Isla, 5-year-old, and Boaz, a 4-year-old. So we stay busy with the kids, and I try to stay busy giving back where I can in the veteran community, and like I said, just being number one, being a man of faith, and then being a good husband and father to my kids.
I love it, brother. I love it. So how do you get the names for your children?
So Osi is my real name is Osi Robert Fagan III. My grandfather was a senior. He was a Army veteran and got a Purple Heart in World War II.
Wow. What unit was he in?
What was he? I can't remember the exact unit at the moment, but yeah, he told me a story 2 weeks before he died. He had Alzheimer's. It took him probably 3 hours to tell me a 15-minute story, but he told me him and a buddy were it was raining, bombs were going off everywhere, and a bomb exploded, artillery exploded near him and his buddy. His buddy got blown up, and he just got knocked out, and he was laying there in a ditch, and all he was worried about was he couldn't find his weapon, and he said, Trey, I had to make a decision, either lay there and die or get up and get moving. So he said he got up and started walking back to friendly lines, and so thank goodness
he was far out there alone.
Yeah, he was. He said Germans were walking up to him trying to surrender, and he didn't even have his weapon, and he was so out of it he was just trying to make it back to friendly lines. But luckily he did. And
they were trying to surrender to him.
Yes.
And he's all like, "Just get me out of here."
Yes, he was blown up. He was in a daze, and Germans were just raining, artillery going off, and people were coming up to him, Germans, and trying to surrender to him, and he was just worried about making it back to friendly lines. So
it's surreal. Like, you can't even grasp that feeling.
Yeah, what's wild is, and like I said, he had Alzheimer's. He told me this story 2 weeks before he died, but so he kept repeating things. Mm-hmm. But his father was a chaplain in the Army. Okay. And once his father, a high-ranking chaplain, heard that he got injured, his father flew out to I forget where they took him, but met him, and so they got to unite once he got back to friendly lines. And
so his dad was active duty still.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
What a blessing.
Yeah, it was a crazy story. And my grandmother, I asked her. Like I said, crazy. 2 weeks before he died, he shared this story with me, but he never shared any of his military experience with anybody before. And this is when I came back from OIF 1, from being, I was a part of 2nd Force Recon, and I came back on, I think it was Thanksgiving leave, and I'm sitting there, and we knew he didn't have much longer to live, and I said, Dorothy is our grandmother. I said, "You think Pawpaw will share any of his combat stories with?" I see the Purple Heart, but nobody like ever.
Why? Before he goes,
nobody ever knew anything. And I said, with me just coming back from Iraq, I think maybe he would share it with me. And she goes, "He's never shared it before. Why don't you go ahead and try to talk to him?" And I said, "Pawpaw, you mind telling me a little bit about your time in the war?" And he goes, "Sure, let's do it." So,
oh my gosh!
So it was.
So he never mentioned that to anybody, but then you're fresh out of the war, right? And then you guys had that connection now.
Yeah, I never really felt that bond or that relationship where I felt comfortable asking about it before I. But once I got back from Iraq, I said, "Man, I would love to hear what he has to say." So I got my notepad out, and I'm sitting there. He would tell me parts of the story all the way up to him getting blown up, and then he'd revert back to the beginning. So it took me a while to take the notes and write it down. But yeah, it was a blessing to be able to document all that. Of course, I shared the story with the family, all his kids, and my dad. And but yeah, that's where I got my name. And then and Osi, my oldest son, seven years old, named him after me. So he's the fourth.
Okay.
And Isla, the wife, came up with it. And then Boaz, being a man of faith, our family's family of faith, and Boaz is obviously a stud in the Bible. So we figured name him Boaz.
It means strength, right, and power.
I believe it does, and it's obviously a good story of what a noble man Boaz was in the Bible. Of course, Boaz and Ruth. So.
And then one of the pillars of Solomon's Temple, I believe, is Boaz. Was erected and named Boaz, right?
Yes, I believe so.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I love it. So, was your what country were you guys from before America?
So my grandfather, he was raised in Mississippi, but the name Fagan is Scottish.
Okay. Yes. Fagan.
Yes.
Yeah, it's extremely Scottish. I'm Irish.
Yeah.
So, do you have a history of like being in the service in your family?
Well, my grandfather and his father were in the service, and then I have an uncle who was in the Coast Guard. But beyond that, I talked to other guys that I grew up with in the military, and the running story that I get is, oh, my grandfather was a Marine. I always wanted to be a Marine. That necessarily wasn't
so common.
Yeah, that necessarily wasn't my case. I played sports growing up as a kid, and all I wanted to do was play football. And high school, I kind of got into other things, girls and parties, and my focus went away from sports, and that's when I ended up into the military. I made a promise to a recruiter to see him on a Sunday, and I popped in his office, and I wasn't excited. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. And he popped in this VHS tape of this guy in cami paint, and he had some wire snips, and he's cutting a wire, and he's sneaking through this fence, taking surveillance of the enemy. And I'm like, all right, if I can do that, I'll sign up. And he's like, done. You're in.
I love it. So you never had that in your heart, really, until you met this random recruiter at school, or how did you meet him?
He was at school. He kept hanging out at the school, and he kept bugging me, and I made a promise to come meet him. I think I made the promise to come meet him just because I was tired of talking to him.
Yeah.
And I woke up that Sunday morning. I'm like, oh man, I told this guy I'd come see him. I better go see him. And but I grew up always competitive in sports and whatnot. So he showed me that VHS tape, and that kind of started my journey, my military journey, and with my competitive nature. He failed to mention if I would have failed any of the qualification courses, I wouldn't be able to become reconnaissance.
Did you go straight into reconnaissance?
I did. I went in, and as long as I passed all the required schools, I would be reconnaissance. So in 1999, I went into the military. I went to boot camp, School of Infantry, and then I went to basic reconnaissance course in Coronado.
Okay. So it's a real nut kicker, isn't it?
It is. It's a good time. Our barracks is right there next to the Buds school, so we see those guys on a daily basis. And the West Coast waves are nothing like the East Coast waves. It's the real deal doing surf passages on the West Coast. So it was a good time.
It breeds humility. How long was the training overall?
I believe it was 3 months. 3 months of school. It was a good time.
All right. And we know, like, the whole world, Americans know, like, when you hear Marines recon, you're like, okay, it's a badass, right? But nobody really knows much about them. So tell us, like, what recon is about. What's their primary mission?
So recon, basically going behind enemy lines and snooping and pooping, finding out, gathering information on the enemy, and reporting it to higher so they can turn that information into intelligence, so they can do a more a higher level raid or whatnot. We also do direct action, jumping and diving, sniping. So a lot of exciting things, and it's a good time.
So you had the guns, you had glass, right, spotting scopes, etc. Did you use a lot of tech then, or was it all before that whole movement?
That was I didn't really get into the tech stuff until I got into MARSOC after I was a dive school instructor. But
so you were dive before MARSOC?
Yes. So I went to 3rd Recon in Okinawa. It was 5th Force at the time, and then it transitioned into 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion. And we did a bunch of reconnaissance and surveillance missions, training missions in Okinawa, and then transferred over to 2nd Force Recon on the East Coast. And that's where I got into more of the direct action, room clearing, raids and whatnot. And then and that's who I deployed to OIF 1 with, Operation Iraqi Freedom 1. And good story.
Initial invasion, right?
Yeah, the initial invasion. So I was on, I believe it was the Nassau, a Navy ship, and we'd already been to Kosovo and and on this deployment for 8 months, and we're sitting in on ship in the chow hall line. So you have roughly 60 guys in line, Marines, and then you have within arm's distance about 60 Navy guys just all waiting to go into the chow hall line. Mm-hmm. And they come over the PA system that Bush announces that we are going to actually invade Iraq. And these Navy guys, they'd been on the Marines were already on the boat for 8 months, but the Navy'd been on it well over a year. Okay. So they come over the PA system and say that we're going to stay on the boat a little bit longer so we can invade Iraq. And man, the tears and anger coming out of the Navy. It was one side of the chow hall was just crying and cussing. The other side was hooting and hollering, high-fiving and cheering. It was a sight to see.
That's what y'all joined for. You know?
Yeah, I mean, before everybody, after 9/11, I give it to those guys that joined the military after 9/11 because you knew you were signing up to go fight. But like I said, my personal story is I joined the military because I didn't want to stay home. I had nothing else to do at the time, and I knew I wanted to excel, push myself in something. So no better way than join the Marines. At the time, in my eyes, that was one of the toughest things to do. So I said, let's do it.
An elite unit in Marines, you know? Yeah. It's like you were a cook or something. God bless them. Yeah. But like you went straight for the...
Yeah, if I was going to do it, I wanted to do the best, so to speak. But yeah, hearing them come over the PA system and say that we were going into Iraq. Up until then, I'd been in the service probably 4 years, and there was no reality of actually seeing real combat until then, and in my opinion, in my experience. So for them to say, hey, you're going to go get something. You're about to go fight, dude. So all that training that we've been doing for the past 3-4 years, we finally get that chance to actually put it to the test to see if all these skills we've been learning, surveillance, long-range reconnaissance, direct action, our sniping skills, all this, we were going to be able to put it to the test. So it was an adrenaline rush, to say the least.
That's an amazing story. So you get that news, right? And of course you're excited. You're a young man. How old are you?
Yeah, I think I may have been 19, 20 years old at the time. And so we get the news we're going to go in, and I think we had one Humvee for our 16 guys in our Force Recon platoon. And if you could imagine a convoy of Humvees and 7 tons and tanks, LAVs, lining up at the border of Kuwait and Iraq, that's what we did. We were basically lined up in column of twos, just waiting for them to give us the signal to go ahead and push into Iraq. And
round 2, right?
Yes.
Desert Storm.
Yes.
Like, let's do it again.
Yeah, so we were lined up, and what was funny is at that time we didn't even have gun turrets. I think we had our Humvee with 0 armor on it, so we sandbagged it up, and we talked to the MEU, the welder on the ship, and we said, look, we got this automatic machine gun. We need a turret on our Humvee. We don't have one. So he welded up. He welded up some jig for us and pivoting system, and we put it on our Humvee, and we thought we were like the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Was it a 60 or what was it?
It was a saw. Okay, that's all we had. It's all it could carry. I think we had 240s. We had 240s too, but we put a saw on it so we could pull it off and carry it as well. But at the time, if you were attached to the MEU and you were a staff sergeant or above on the MEU, they only issued you a pistol. Mm-hmm. So us and the grunts, our Force Recon platoon and the infantry guys were the only ones that had rifles and automatic weapons. So all these staff NCOs, staff sergeants and above, were trying to hop onto our vehicles while we pushed up through Iraq because all they had was a pistol.
Interesting. Oh my gosh.
It was wild.
What?
Yes, it was wild. So that was an eye opener, to say the least. I'd say that was one of the biggest differences between now and then is the gear, the up armor of the vehicles, and of course, sending out a whole MEU and only giving guys pistols, and then them realizing they're going to go into combat.
It's like the Russians, when you see like movies and stuff, and they're like, one man gets a rifle, the other man gets the ammo, and you like follow him and wait for him to die, and then grab his gun.
Exactly.
That's not.
Well, a funny story about that is, with them being on the MEU, they only gave us limited space, so we only had one Humvee. On the push up, we actually. You're familiar with the movie, the documentary Generation Kill.
Yeah.
So it was a race to Baghdad, so to speak, and our MEU was basically responsible for replacing roadblocks for Force Recon. So they would occupy a town, a village, a roadblock, and we would come up and replace them so they could continue on and push towards Baghdad. Well, while we were doing this, we would push through bases that were basically vacant, and us being low on equipment, we commandeered
Iraqi bases?
No, American bases.
Okay, wow.
And we commandeered another Humvee on our way up. So, so that was
just sitting there, no key.
Yeah. We had to return it. Of course, we returned it on the way home. But at that point, it was definitely, you could say it was the Wild Wild West. Yeah.
Did you ever, in the Marines, I remember when we were younger, we'd always play jokes on like new people and be like, hey, go ask the sergeant major there for the key to the third Humvee. We can't find it. Did you guys do that?
Oh yeah. We had games like that all the time. What was another one?
There's no key, by the way.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So they were, as a history that I know it, and granted, I'm in high school then, right? But like recon and stuff, they were hard charging. I mean, if there was like decisive engagements and stuff, of course they'd fight, but like they weren't trying to fight it out. They were trying to get to Baghdad ASAP, right? And then the army was kind of coming up, to the sides.
Yeah, to my as what I can remember in my knowledge, First Recon was and Generation Kill, I believe, did a pretty good job of it. But they were racing towards Baghdad, and our mission, like I said, was to replace some of these checkpoints in villages and towns that they just blew through, and some of the times they had zero time to do detailed searches or actually get any atmospherics of that town. So multiple checkpoints we made it to, we'd have locals come up to us and give us information, intelligence that bad guys were still occupying their village. So through gathering information that way, we were able to do a lot of, quite a few direct action raids and hits in those villages while we were occupying checkpoints.
Were they Ba'athist or regime? Like, what were they?
I can't even remember what they. Over the time we've called them so many different things, insurgents, Taliban, different things. But as a 19-year-old Force Recon Marine, I knew they were bad guys.
Totally. I got you. So that's amazing, man. So that's your first kind of stint of war. How long was that trip in total?
So that was we were attached to 2-4 MEU then, and I think we were in Iraq for just over 30 days, and then they pulled us back and we got sent home since we were already out on the boat for 8-9 months at that point. Yeah.
How far did y'all make it before you got pulled?
I'm not exactly sure how far we made it. Yeah, I don't recollect.
That's 19-year-old Trey. I'm the same way, man. All right, so you get back, you move in. It's 2003 still, or
this is 2003, 2004. We get back. We were expecting, in our eyes, we were the senior Force Recon platoon. But of course, you being an SF team, every team thinks they're the number one team.
Totally, yeah.
But we get back and we regroup, and we thought we were going to immediately deploy again back over to Iraq, and they stuck us on another Marine Expeditionary Unit, another MEU, and we ended up going to Saudi Arabia with the same group of guys training the Saudi Marines. So, so that wasn't the highlight of our time, especially. It grew a lot of guys bitter because the fighting going on and we weren't there.
But, for sure.
Yeah, but we we did our job and then came home. And so that was 2004. And then that's after that deployment, I had the opportunity to get orders down to dive school in Panama City, Florida, and I jumped on that opportunity, and I spent from 2006 to 2009 as a Marine combatant dive instructor.
Okay, is it the same one as the Army's, the CDQC?
So I think the Armies go to, if I'm correct, they go to Key West for their
Key
Army
West.
school.
Yeah.
But all the other services have theirs at the Naval Diving Salvage Training Center in Panama City.
Oh yeah, across the freaking lane. I'm blanking out of my head here. I got you.
Yeah.
It's a similar school.
Yes, very similar school. Yes.
Okay, awesome, man. So you did a 3-year stint there?
Yeah, 3 years there, and what was kind of, well, I was down there and as a dive school instructor and saw minimal fighting in OIF 1. So I grew this. I was a little bitter because I mean I wasn't in the fight. I felt inadequate in a sense because all these guys are coming to dive school, being able to tell all these war stories about things they're doing in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm sitting here at a training command. So it really grew. It festered a rage in me where I'm like, man, I gotta get to combat. I gotta get some for my boys. Everybody else is doing this, and I'm sitting here. So I was really biting at the bit to get back to a combat deployed unit.
Yeah, it's a noble thing, and of course we need it. You know, we need good instructors, experienced instructors, blah blah blah. But then when you are in that position, as I've been also as an instructor, you feel like the practice squad for the Bengals or something. You're like, okay, we're going to the Super Bowl here or whatever. We've got a good team, but like I'm on the side, throwing with the quarterback, and he's going to go, not me.
Yeah. It was a lot of mixed emotions, some jealousy, some pride issues, but the funny thing about it is all those feelings. I mean, it's like you're waiting to be put into the game. You're waiting to be put into the game, and I get back to MARSOC in 2009, and we deployed to Afghanistan, and all those feelings were built up for 3 years. I'm like, man, I need to get some, and I was put in Dari Boom, Afghanistan, northern Afghanistan, and I remember my first. We were on motorcycles doing a route recon, and we get into a firefight, and these two Afghans start shooting at us, and there's 100-meter high canyon walls on each side, and me and two other of our teammates start chasing these guys through this canyon and this pass, and we get ambushed. They had some guys up on the high ground, and so we're pinned down.
They were luring you in?
Yeah, they baited us in, and of course, in my mind, 3 years of waiting to just slay some people and fight, get these guys. I was headstrong and wanted to go, and it got me. But the funny thing about it is I'm sitting there behind this waist high mud hut, and I'm seeing the rounds pop off of this mud wall, and I just had this reflection. I'm just like, for 3 years, this is what I wanted. I'm like, oh my God. What was I thinking? For 3 years, I was wanting this.
Were you alone?
No, me and two other buddies, a guy named Clint and another corpsman of ours. And I mean, we made it out. I think one guy got hit in the leg that day, but nobody died. But it was an eye opener. I got back off that op, and I was like, oh my gosh! For 3 years, I've been just hating myself because I wasn't over here. And this, I'm like, okay,
this is every day in Afghanistan.
Yes, and that deployment, that's what it was like. We were doing. This is 2010. 2009 to 2011, we were doing village stability operations. So basically living in a village with the local Afghans and going door to door, meeting these guys, helping them build their security so they could defend themselves. But on a daily basis, when that sun would set over the horizon, we were taking shots on a daily basis.
Right.
But man, to go from sitting behind a desk and working at the pool every day, it was an eye opener. I'm like, okay, this is what everybody was doing. Okay, this
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you ever like think you're like, okay, so talking to my grandpa, about war, and he told me that story, and then you're like, it's kind of surreal because we had World War One, the war to end all wars. War to end all wars. And then World War II, everybody said, hey, there's going to be a new international order, blah, blah, blah. Like, there won't be any more major wars. And now here you are, 2009, you said? Or
Yeah, 2010-ish.
10, stuck behind this freaking mud pit, like similar to your grandpa's story.
Yeah, it was wild. And I'm sure the crazy thing about Afghanistan is, I mean, we encountered people in villages that didn't even know Americans were there. I mean, some of these.
They thought Russia was still there.
Yes, we're encountering these local Afghans and they still think they're fighting the Russians. That's how out of touch with reality some of them are, and they're completely content with that. So
that might be great, man. When you come to think of it, you're like, all this crap in the world, and I just care about my family, food, my little farm here, my village. I'm next to my cousins and my grandma, everybody.
Yeah,
on this mountain.
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild.
That's amazing, man. That's a cool story. So you had that Afghan trip, and now we're in 2010 time period.
Yeah, 2010. That was so northern Afghanistan, more village stability operations, getting building the morale and security and helping the local villagers. And then we come back, we refit, and I get the opportunity to do another Afghanistan deployment to more southern Afghanistan, the Delaram area.
Blessing.
Yeah, and it was it was a lot more kinetic, more direct action type raids, where every 3 days we were either getting on a helicopter, doing village clears, or jumping on motorcycles and four-wheelers and traveling up into the mountains and doing raids that way. With the IED threat, as big as it was in southern Afghanistan, it was just a lot smarter and safer to take motorcycles and four-wheelers, but it was a great time.
So you showed me a picture, and if you're cool with it, maybe I'll put it on, the podcast or whatever, but it's your picture. It's amazing. But you all look like these battle-forged killers, like Hell's Angels picture. It's a big row of like the motorcycles, camo and everything, machine guns, these tough alpha males, and you guys are about to go, I guess, on a mission or whatever. But like, it's amazing. Like, a picture tells a million words. That one picture, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was the ability, like I said from the beginning of my military service, to do so much training, and you know how this is. You work so hard day in and day out, repetition. I mean, mag reloads, on the flat range, long range, all this training, jumping, diving, surveillance, all this training.
All the basics, all the way to joint maneuver.
To put all that training to where you're actually in a combat zone and you have all the assets you need at your base, and you're doing everything from gathering intelligence to building the mission plan to executing the mission. It's
full scope.
It's full scope, and it's definitely fulfilling to be able to do that. I mean, there's nothing like I told you. 10 o'clock at night, you have your whole team. You have 25 Americans and another 15 to 30 Afghans, all on motorcycles lined up, waiting to leave the wire, doing your comm checks, giving high fives to your team chief as you pass through the wire. It's amazing. And mission prep includes, I mean, the night before you're teaching Afghans how to change motorcycle tires on nods, so they're quiet and
the most random things you would never think of.
It's insane. It's insane. It was a blast, to say the least. Another story I could kind of tell you is one of the missions, like I said, probably at least 30 motorcycles coming back in the afternoon off of a mission after we cleared a village and just leaving a dust trail through the desert. We noticed that Afghan guy up on the mountaintop. So we send a couple guys and an interpreter up to check on him, make sure he's not radioing the bad guys and whatnot. And
because you saw that all the time, right? Iraq too.
Oh yeah,
they'd be like trash men on the side of the road, and you leave the fob, and they'd be on the cell phones, and then magically a mile down the road you get hit. Right?
Yeah. You see them calling on the radio or whatnot, and you know they're calling ahead to let people know that you're going. So this happened all the time. So we figured that's what he was doing. We figured he had a radio in his pocket or whatnot. So we go to check him out, take the motorcycles up the mountaintop, and our interpreter talks to him, and the interpreter says, he says he's hunting, and we're like, hunting? What's he hunting? And the next
go boys.
Yeah. The next thing you know, he pulls out a whistle and he blows his whistle and he looks up in the sky and this falcon is circling overhead and this falcon comes down and lands on his arm and that's how his family has hunted for years and it passed it down from generation to generation. And we're in awe. We're like, oh my dude, that's awesome.
Like, you think you're cool, Marines. You have a dirt bike and this fancy gun and these night vision goggles, but guess what? And he just blows the whistle
exactly.
And the thing lands on his arm.
I mean, we're like a motorcycle crew of 30, a motorcycle club in Afghanistan with automatic weapons.
Afghan MC.
Yeah, we think we're the coolest thing ever. And then we encounter this Afghan that, I mean, no electronics, nothing. He's got a whistle and a falcon, and we're sitting here giving him high fives. We're like, man, that's so awesome. Come with us.
It's unreal. It's unreal, man.
That was quite an experience. So.
What did the falcon hunt? I
don't really remember if we saw him actually get anything, but it was an amazing sight to see what he was doing.
They got everything there. I mean, they got freaking monkeys. They got all these crazy animals you would never think of. So
yeah, I'm sure they'd eat about anything or everything.
Yeah. Jeez, oh man. So yeah, that's insane. So all right. So any other cool war stories?
Let's see. I think that about covers it.
Okay. So now you're how many years you got in so far?
So let's see. This is 2013, my last combat deployment. I come home from Afghanistan, married with roughly 8-year-old stepdaughter, and think about that deployment that I just explained. We're doing missions every 3 days. I mean, high tempo, high adrenaline. We're either riding a helicopter or riding motorcycles every 3 days, shooting bad guys. So it was very fulfilling, but the adrenaline level was always at a high. And I come back home to the States and bought a house. Tell people I thought I had the white picket fence story. Everything seemed normal, but things weren't adding up. Things weren't. My mind. I was started to have nightmares and anger issues. I wasn't transitioning, you could say, to that every day. I wasn't content with just being a stay-at-home dad and a father and a husband. I felt like I was missing something not being back in Afghanistan, overseas, thinking about friends of mine, guys that I thought were better than me that died and gave everything, and here I am with everything still. So a lot of different mixed emotions going on, and so that caused me to kind of have a downward spiral. I got into alcohol. I wasn't telling my wife or coworkers about the nightmares or the PTSD signs, and things kind of spiraled out of hand. And before you knew it, I was missing work, coming in smelling like booze, not performing like I should, and guys that I worked with and guys that I deployed with noticed it. And so thank God, I had some friends, some brothers that really cared about me, and they pulled me aside. Actually, I missed work on a Monday, and they came over to the house and confronted me. They said, Trey, what's going on, man? I came to the door still smelling like booze. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was just overfilled with shame and guilt, and I didn't know how to get out of the situation I was in. If I could have figured out a way to get out of it, I would have.
Absolutely, yeah.
My marriage was in shambles. My work, I was playing Russian roulette with a 16-year military career. I didn't know how to fix it. It had got that bad.
Yeah.
And for them to come over and say, look, man, we're here for you. We love you. We care about you. You're better than this. Let's get you help. For them to say that, it was the perfect storm that allowed me to break down. And I broke down right there and just started crying. I'm like, yeah, man,
Really?
I'll do whatever it takes. I need to get some help. I don't know how to fix what's going on here, but whatever I need to do, let's do it. And that started a healing process that involved my command helped me out. My teammates helped me out. They allowed me to go to a 30-day treatment facility that addressed PTSD and substance abuse. That was the first time I was really truthful and honest with myself, but also honest with others about the nightmares and the anger issues and the other PTSD symptoms that I was having. So I came clean with everything, and I said, "Yep, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm covering up my PTSD symptoms," and started addressing issues, and that really was the start of a recovery process for me. After that 30-day treatment, I came back and I did the AA thing. Did AA for 90 days, 90 meetings, and then I had a good friend, a master diver that I worked with. He said, "Hey Trey, you ever tried taking your family to church?" And I said, "Nope." But my mentality at that point is whatever I was doing wasn't working at the time. So
Yeah.
So if I had brothers, friends, mentors that I saw, man, this guy's doing it right. He's a good husband.
Yeah.
He's a good father. I was leaning on guys like that I knew personally. And this guy I truly looked up to. And so he gave me the advice of taking my family to church. And I said, let's do it.
Did you believe in God at all at that point?
I really didn't have, I thought I did, but I didn't know. And I definitely, for sure, wasn't living like I believed in God. So,
which is a whole different block.
It is.
You know?
It is. Yeah, I was definitely not living a Christ-like life, you could say. And yeah, I really needed some self-reflection and to be accountable to myself before I could be accountable to my wife or my kids or my coworkers.
You're the cornerstone of a family. I mean, it is. It says it in the Bible. And we all just know, take religion out of it. I mean, that's, you are. You're the man. You're supposed to be the leader. They're supposed to rest on you. And if you're, malleable and going through problems, it's going to transverberate all the way to your family and friends, unfortunately.
It was, exactly. That's what was happening with me. Yes, I had problems in every aspect of my life, and I think going through that treatment, AA, and those two, I think I tell guys if my buddies would have shown up that day at my house to get me help, if they would have said, "Hey Trey, we're gonna introduce you to God," I don't know if I would have. Okay, all right, let's go. I don't know if that would have helped me at that point. For them to say,
it's very far.
I wasn't able to accept that kind of help at that point.
For sure.
I think God has His plans, and is involved in everything. But I think it took some growing, and He took me through a maturation process of going to that treatment, of going to AA, and then introducing me to church, and it molded me into. To eventually to the point where in 2016, my family, my wife and our daughter, we were baptized. So
wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome, brother.
It was awesome.
It's amazing.
It was good.
So we're at towards the end of your career, everything you're getting out. Are you kind of leery of like the steps that you need to take? Because you, ever since you were a young man, I mean, you knew that like show up right time, right place, right uniform, be told what to do until you're an adult and you can tell other people what to do. Like you generally know what's going on in your life. You got to figure it out. You've been to war, you've been an instructor, right? You're a seasoned Marine, you're a seasoned veteran, combat veteran at that point. Now you have to face the real world, you know, and you're like, well, how do I go about that? I mean, all I've known is the military.
Yeah. The transformation from military to the civilian life was definitely a big step, and I didn't know how I was going to handle it. I actually I took a 4-month veterans in piping program course where I learned how to weld 4 months before I got out. That lined me up with a civilian job.
Okay.
So that helped me a bunch.
Did you want to do that, or it was something to do at the time?
You know, once I realized I was going to be getting out of the military, I was so concerned with all I've done is shoot guns and cool guy, jump out of airplanes and dive. How is that going to transition? How is that going to transfer over into the civilian life?
Exactly.
And to be honest, with the family, the wife wasn't okay with me doing contracting work.
They were popular at the time, weren't they? A lot of money.
It was an easy way to make money, but also guys were. It wasn't the safest thing to do. So I knew I needed to do something where I was getting a paycheck, but also there for my family every night. And because all that time spent away from them with the deployments, I needed to be there for my wife and kids. So that's where I kind of said, okay, let's learn a trade, and
Okay.
That's what I did. But when we got baptized, there was a individual, a mentor of mine, sitting in the church pews, and I didn't know it. He didn't know it. He told his wife that day before church. He said, "There's a family getting baptized today. We're going to reach out to them and we're going to mentor them." And his old mindset is a new Christian is most vulnerable. He's in the most dangerous part of his life. Rather than a seasoned Christian, and sure enough, we got baptized in 2016, and he comes up to me and just introduces himself to me, and that started a friendship, a mentorship that I still have to this day, a lifelong friend, and he's got a love for veterans as well. So yeah, that the mentorship that he provided, I'm really helped me with that transformation from that transition from military to civilian life.
Okay, so you got family, you have training for a career, right? You're preparing for that. You had your buddies that were supporting you. You had your church that was supporting you. You're a new man. You're a saved man, right? Believer in God, and your family became baptized. So things are on the right track. You're feeling good. Did you cut alcohol out completely?
I did. Yes. After I went to treatment while I was still active duty, and the AA cut alcohol out, and yes.
Awesome. And that obviously was a big step up in your life, right? Did it rectify a lot of those problems? It was covering up some of the PTSD. Did you still have PTSD at that time?
I did. I was so I still was having some PTSD issues. Went through the whole VA process and was prescribed medications and did that, but I knew I was still missing something. I knew I still had a higher sense of purpose. I needed to do something else with my life besides. I mean, the family was there, like you said. I had the faith, I had the family, and I had the job, but I needed to reconnect somehow with the veteran community. So I did a few different things. The first thing is the book project. I did that.
Okay.
You want me to talk about that? Or?
Yeah. I have the book right here, and you actually gave this to me last week after you told me about it. And I'm a big reader, and I love reading about military history, especially. So, Untold Stories of Valhalla, honoring fallen heroes from the Marine, Raider, Recon, and Sniper community, Trey Fagan and Alan R. Smith. So yeah, tell audience about that.
So I was at 17 years military service, and that's when I did early retirement at 17 years. It was an unexpected transition for me. I had all intentions of doing 20 years, and once I found out I was going to be getting out earlier, I felt a sense of purpose that I needed to do something more for the guys that died overseas fighting for our freedom. I'm like I said, here I am back home in the States with my family, my kids, and I had best friends that we talked about them having kids at the same time as we did, and they're not here anymore. So I felt a sense of, I felt some guilt. Why is it why are they gone and I'm still here?
Survivor's guilt.
They're a lot better. They were a lot better men, husbands than I was, and so I felt somewhat of an obligation to honor them, and also kind of share how great of men they were, and something to kind of honor their family as well. So I ran this idea past a few of my buddies and said, hey, let's make a book. And each chapter is going to be about somebody, one of our friends, one of our brothers in the community, the Marine Recon Sniper community, who died in combat.
Okay.
And what's going to make it special is we're going to have one of their best friends who was with them when they died share the story, or author the story. So we put 11 individuals, 11 combat Marine Recon Sniper guys in the book, and each chapter is authored by a different individual. Some of the chapters are authored by their widow, and so it took some coordinating to get it all done, working with the different authors and editing and then getting it back. But once we got it done,
Too windy.
let's see, we raised money. It was a nonprofit project. So we basically got businesses and organizations and made T-shirts, sold T-shirts to get the money for printing and editing and publishing, and then all the money from the books that we sold, we distributed to the families of the people. So nobody profited from the book. We dispersed the money in forms of scholarships to the kids of the guys in the book, and so to be able to honor those guys and do some kind of give back to guys that aren't around anymore was a good feeling, and I think it did the community good.
Yeah, and then write that indelible legacy of these men and women that served. Just like it seems like you love bringing stories to life, like your veteran stories, and you did that for your grandpa, and you have it in you, to help veterans and help tell their stories. Because 100%, like these poor guys, did the ultimate sacrifice for their country. And, of course we can read their award citations and whatever made the news, right? But that's this much of this man right here.
Yeah.
Right. And then like operationally, like their children are gonna be able to look back and they're gonna read this one day, their grandchildren, history books, like whatever, right? When they want to know about these operations, like that story is there now forever, and it made its mark.
Yeah. A big problem something that I never really understood. We're all alpha type males, and you always see other team guys in passing. I'm coming back from a deployment, and you're going, and
totally, yeah,
and you have that alpha type mentality where you don't want to say, hey man, how you doing, and share those stories in a sincere way. So from growing up in 2nd Force Recon, I'd always look at the other platoon and say, man, the stories that we get from our platoon, there's got to be the same stories in theirs. Why? But we play the tough guy role, and we don't want to just break.
Totally.
We don't want to break down and share those stories. So that was something I wanted to crack the code on. And in my eyes, we don't in a sincere way share the stories of our brothers enough. In good nature, and
it's the whole reason I do this podcast.
Yeah, it's I wish we could break that mold of the tough guy, the alpha mentality, and just, hey, my name's Trey, man, I just got back, and share sincere stories.
Totally.
But that was a major goal of doing that book is show, because some of these guys, I mean, some of the guys have been in for 15, 20 years and nobody's ever worked with them. So this gives them a sense of where they can kind of learn more about guys that are in their unit.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing, man. So that brought a lot of healing to you and to those families, and of course, you know, reading about their family members, their dads or whatever, brothers, husbands.
Yeah. I in a sense, I joke around with people and tell them that I'm selfish, but I've honestly felt I have a passion and a purpose to help others, and whenever I have the ability to help another veteran, it gives me a sense of gratification that is like no other feeling. It's that adrenaline rush, that runner's high, so to speak. And, to be able to do that, it's very fulfilling. So that's why that's another reason why I wanted to do the book is because helping others it helps me as well.
I love it, man. It's kind of like a snowball. I think once you do it a few times and you see the impressions and how it changes people and how it changes you also, right? And bringing these stories to life, or just helping a veteran, right? It could be as simple as like helping fix his stairs for some old veteran, you know, that you can't fix his stairs to his house, right? Yeah. We've done that in the past, just for an example. And it brings such like greatness and joy to your heart and to that veteran to know that like, hey, you're a brother. We're still brothers until we die, right? Even though we didn't fight directly together or whatever, like we're all a community, and we should be a community. We should be helping each other out, not calling each other out, which is all too common, because that's not where we get anywhere. But did that kind of snowball once you wrote this book and put together the book, really put together those stories? You're like, okay, with this passion, with this fervor, I'm going to transition and move into the next thing, or
yeah,
how do you feel?
Yeah, for sure. So after the book project, it was got done. Super excited about that, but I still felt I think I'm always going to be called to do something in the veteran community and help out in some shape, way, or fashion. And so when I retired out of the military in 2016, we moved down to Florida and Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, Florida area.
Okay.
And a huge sense of veteran support is in Jacksonville, Florida.
Really?
Big shout out to, huge sense of veteran support down there. And I saw an immediate need of struggling veterans in the area, whether it was with number one, it was just transitioning out of the military. Everybody wants to say that we know how high the suicide rate is in veterans,
mm-hmm.
And we know the homeless veterans and just veterans struggling in general. And so I wanted to do some way to give back to the veterans in Florida, and that's when me and my mentor John Green and my wife played a huge part in it.
This is the same mentor, from the church?
Yeah, the same one that pulled me from the cow trough when I got baptized in Florida. He reached out to me and he started mentoring me. We came up with the idea to start Operation Barnabas, and basically the mission of Operation Barnabas is to help struggling vets by one-to-one mentorship, and whether they be struggling from homelessness, PTSD, TBI, whatever it may be, losing a job, no vehicle, we provide them help. And how we really got kick-started was I was sharing my testimony in Florida. I actually, we raised some funds and we bought a camper. We saw the need. We needed to get people off the streets. And so I bought this fifth wheel camper, and I would take this camper around to state parks. And the first veteran that we had stay in the camper was a female Navy veteran, and she had 2 kids, and she got evicted from her house, and she contacted us. She said, "I'm getting evicted literally tomorrow, and nowhere to stay." So I called the church and I said, "Hey, we got this fifth wheel camper. She can stay in there." We took it to a state park. We helped her move all of her stuff out of her place. And so she's literally staying at this state park in this fifth wheel camper that we got basically given to us for $2,000 from a church member.
Oh, wow.
He heard our mission and he said, "Okay, awesome. I'll hook you up with this camper." So we got this veteran. She's not homeless. She's staying in the camper, and then the work really starts. Within a 30-day time span, we do one-to-one mentorship where we say, "Hey, what can we do to help you? Let's go from A, B to C. What's the first most immediate need that we can fix with you? Okay, you need a job. Do you have a vehicle? Do you have a license? Okay, first things first. Let's get you a license. Then we'll get you a vehicle. Then we'll get you a job." And really just kind of doing life with veterans. That one-to-one, face-to-face mentorship is what a lot of bigger organizations, I think, really don't grasp. It's not a 1-800 toll-free number that is going to truly help our veteran suicide program problem. It's you face to face, just like those 3 guys that came to my aid when I was at rock bottom. Mm-hmm. If I would have got a call, I wouldn't have answered the call. It was somebody I knew showing sincere, genuine care and love for me, saying that they were going to help do life with me, and that's what my buddies did. So that's what we tried to replicate with Operation Barnabas, and we did it. We did a great job. Operation Barnabas is still up and running, doing good things in Florida. And
is it only in Florida, or is it nationwide?
So they just expanded now to do outdoor activities, which I'm a part of with the spearfishing.
Okay.
But how they really got started was I shared my testimony with a hotel owner. And I said, we got to grow bigger than just a camper to help these veterans.
Yeah.
So I pick out a handful of hotels, and I go see them one day. And I'm sitting down with this hotel owner, and I'm sharing my testimony of PTSD, alcohol, drugs, recovery, mentors, guys helping me, holding my hand, doing life with me. Mm-hmm. And this lady just breaks down and starts crying. And she's like, "Oh, this is my story." And she shares her story.
Oh, my gosh. The owner of all these hotels.
The owner of this hotel in Jacksonville, Florida. And she says, "I love your story. We're going to help you." And just like that, she gives us immediately 10 rooms a month to house veterans in Jacksonville, Florida. So that took us from a camper where we're helping one veteran at a time to where we can immediately take 10 veterans or 10 veteran families and help them at one time. So that really started increasing our numbers and the amount of veterans we could help. And Operation Barnabas is still doing good. Since we started, I've handed it off to my mentor and a couple other advisors, but I believe they've raised over $600,000 since 2017, all going to help veterans and helped hundreds of veterans get off the streets, and not only get off the streets, but like I said, hey, let's get them off the streets, let's get them a vehicle, let's get them a job, and essentially the end state is them living on their own, and so yeah, it's a cool little project that
I love it, man. It's an amazing story, honestly, because you're exactly right. Like, we have these programs, right? And I don't want to call anything by name, honestly, because I think they all start with good intentions, really, right? And money gets allocated to it, and then it eventually can become a self-licking ice cream cone of the government, which the government's great at and the military's great at, where it doesn't actually help anybody. They get all this money, they get all these services. Occasionally they make a call, like, okay, we called Trey on Wednesday, left a message, check, next veteran, right? But it's never that person who was with them that actually knows Trey, that actually cares about Trey, that can actually grab his hand and pull him up out of the freaking sloth and be like, "Hey, brother, here's what we got to do to get you straight," right?
Yeah.
You know you got it in you. You just are facing some stuff,
exactly,
right, that is natural because you're a human and you're not meant to see some of the crap that you see in war, right? But then when you come home, and unfortunately in the military, we've seen it, guys who have dealt with that through drugs, through alcohol, through whatever, right? You can't even blame them to an extent because they're dealing with God knows what in their head. Because even though you and I saw something that happened in war, we were both there together, right? You and I are going to handle it starkly different. So to assign some kind of, "Oh, well, he shouldn't have PTSD or he shouldn't be thinking like that." Well, yeah, it's easy for you to say, man, but that's not the common thread. I mean, everybody handles that differently. Everybody approaches the healing process differently. And all too common in the military, I've seen guys just get burned and hammered alive You know, because it might have been a DUI, or they might have had alcohol-related incident, and it came up on the blotter, and somebody just, their whole career, you know, said, their whole mindset is just to freaking burn this dude to the ground, and then it becomes even worse.
Yeah.
It exasperates the freaking problem. We don't look out for each other.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. I remember trying to get Operation Barnabas up and off the ground running, and I would sit in county commissioner boards in Northeast Florida, and I'd listen to these politicians speaking about helping veterans, and I could honestly, I mean, there's some big Wounded Warriors is an organization that is based out of Northeast Florida.
Oh, really?
So huge organizations in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I, without a doubt, I could stand up in those county commissioner meetings and say, look, the only way you're truly going to help a veteran, I said, Operation Barnabas is the boots on the ground team that is going face to face with these struggling veterans. I'm not trying to bash other organizations, but you can't have an organization with only a corporate office and send out PowerPoints or give a 1-800 number and expect that to reduce the amount of veteran suicide we have.
Totally.
It's going to take the boots on the ground, going door to door, getting your hands dirty, saying, and like you said, each veteran has a different problem with a different way to solve it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't sit there and address a guy face to face or a female face to face and say, how can we help? I truly care about getting you back on your feet. If you don't do that, you're never going to connect with the struggling veteran.
Sometimes that's all they need, man, because they see a website, they get a phone number from some organization or whatever, and that's what they got, right? And now they're pulled out, they're back in Jacksonville or wherever the heck they're from in America, right? Away from the peer group, away from the people that they served with. They're around all these civilians who don't understand them, don't understand their vernacular, their humor. They don't understand depression, PTSD, you know, suicide, any of the TBI. I mean, God, scientists don't even know that. I mean, they can't tell me what the heck goes on with my brain. You know, freaking blank out, you know, a couple times a month or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just gone. So it's like nobody can really understand that or tell that. And now these people are plucked out. They're in this community now. They're not around their brothers. And all they care about is like finding somebody who can identify with them and kind of bring them up, it seems like. And it seems like you guys have done that successfully at Project Barnabas.
Yeah, it's and one of the, as you know, one of the key things to helping somebody that's struggling is veterans are pretty good at being able to tell what a person is about. And if I haven't been wallering in the mud, how am I going to relate to you? And that's what made Operation Barnabas, I think, so sincere and so unique. Is I was at rock bottom.
Yes.
I was there. I know. I have a sense. I may not know your story, but I can surely tell you my story. And I was wallering in the mud.
Heck yeah.
And it wasn't fun. So whatever it takes to get you out of the mud, let's do it and get you back on your feet. So
I love that.
So that was we found we were very relatable to struggling veterans in the area.
How did you get that name?
So Barnabas is son of encouragement. That's what it means. And to me, that's really my ultimate passion and purpose in life is to encourage others. And if you can encourage others, you can get them to follow you and you can inspire them. So son of encouragement, Barnabas. It's biblical.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. So we're still ongoing. What's the website?
So Operation Barnabas, OperationBarnabas.com is the website. And like I said, it's been established since 2017.
Okay.
Still doing good. I think we've taken over 150 homeless veterans off the streets and given them a living location, and then given people numerous vehicles and jobs through our resources, and raised roughly over $600,000 in the last five years. So
that's what's up, man. I'm freaking proud of this. That's awesome. So I'll put all this data in the show notes, of course, right? That way you guys can, if you know a veteran that's in need of that, if you know somebody that wants to support that, which they would love to have the support, right? Or to help out in any way, or just to engage with that community, definitely check that out, guys. And now that you kind of evolves into what we're sitting on right now, right?
Yeah, so right now we're on a 30-foot Seahawk spearfishing boat.
No big deal.
No big deal. So I was knee deep in Operation Barnabas, but through that I wasn't paying attention to my self-care and kind of got away from the most important priorities in my life, which is family. So I think we were the wife made dinner one night. It was roughly 5 o'clock at night, and the kids are sitting at the dinner table. She's waiting for me, and I'm going back and forth between 5 or 6 different veterans, coordinating things. A guy is getting kicked out of the hotel, or a guy just lost his job, and I'm doing this, and the wife comes out and she goes, "Trey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm helping veterans, and I got 2 one-track minds, so to speak, and too involved in my work, and I needed to take a step back and really focus on some self-care and faith, family, and get back to the roots, because if we're not rooted in our faith and our family life isn't good, we're not going to be good for anybody else. So I noticed that I was putting too much time into the organization and not enough time into my family. So I stepped back, and my mentor, John Green, took lead in Operation Barnabas, and we've now handed it off to. What's cool about another thing that's cool about Operation Barnabas is who's now running Operation Barnabas is a veteran that we actually helped.
Oh, really?
Who was struggling. So we helped him through the ranks. He went through the process of healing through Operation Barnabas, and now he's like the lead officer of Operation Barnabas, and he's on fire. He loves helping veterans, and kind of in a sense, just like how somebody helped me, somebody helped him, and now he's helping others. So
it's in good hands.
It's in good hands.
Okay.
So Operation Barnabas is going on. I within the past 2 years moved to North Carolina and found myself without a passion and purpose. I had my faith, and we found a good church here in Salem Baptist Church in Sneads Ferry, but I got lazy in my passion and purpose. I didn't know what was next for me. And the wife knew a local commercial spear fisherman, Randy Batts, and she could tell I was getting antsy. She knew I needed to do something to give back. And she said, "Well, Trey, why don't you go spearfishing with Randy? He's a diver, and me having experience being a dive instructor." I said, "All right, let's give it a try." So moving, I was a little distraught, disgruntled to say the least, about moving from Florida. I missed Florida, and I didn't know what North Carolina was going to bring to me once we moved here.
Yeah,
and so I needed something, and Randy took me spearfishing, and it had been probably 5 years since I'd done any diving, but never spearfished. So he was giving me a lesson on the spear gun, and he said, "Trey, listen, this is the spear gun. This is how it works. Just dive with me, watch me, and if you feel comfortable on the next dive, you can shoot some fish."
Okay.
So, and Randy, he's 70 now. I think he was 68 at the time. I'm like, okay, what's this guy going to show me, right?
Yeah.
And I go down with him, and he's just cool, calm, collective underwater. And it had been so long since I've been diving. I mean, just the scenery was amazing. I was in awe. And he's down there just slow, methodical. And then we started seeing fish. And all of a sudden, these dang spear shafts just start shooting out of his gun, and he's slaying fish. It's like, boo, boo, boo. And I'm just like, what is going on? I mean, the safety factor, the risk factor, diving can be dangerous, of course, but then you have the adrenaline rush of the hunt, and then you're actually
natural.
Yes, and so all these mixed emotions are going on in my head while I'm diving at 80 feet with this 68-year-old, and he's just whooping it on these fish, and I'm amazed. And so we come up from the dive, and I'm giving him high fives. I'm like, "Man, that was awesome. Give me a gun. Let's go." So we finished the day off. He teaches me how to spearfish, and turns out I ended up being pretty good at it. And that finishes 2021. I go on multiple trips with him. as a commercial spear fisherman, and we make a little bit of money selling fish. And at the end of the year, I'm like, man, that same feeling that I had when I did that first dive with Randy, I have to be able to replicate. Guys need to witness that. And so my experience with Operation Barnabas and the book, kind of sharing with other veterans, giving back to veterans. I approached Randy. I said, look, man, we could do this and help veterans. We could, exactly the way that you helped me and you taught me to spearfish, we can give that same experience to local veterans in the community.
It's like a perfect alignment.
It was, and who would have? I mean,
God would do.
Yeah, God. Nobody else can align things like the way they did, and it was perfect timing. I met Randy at church, and it was just amazing. And of course, I present this idea to Randy, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." So this brings us into 2022 last year, and we take 34 veteran spearfishing trips, and we take over 65 veterans spearfishing, 100% free to the veteran. So we were lucky enough to team up with over 15 local businesses who have agreed to sponsor a veteran, basically sponsor a trip. Okay. And so we contact these veterans, and all they do is show up, and we give them a quick rundown on how to shoot a spear gun, and give them a refresh on diving, and then we take them spearfishing.
So you take this boat way out in the water, because I was asking you how far you went. How far was it again?
Yeah, we go anywhere from 10 miles to 50 miles offshore, and load it down with tanks and gear that we've accumulated over the years, and slay some fish, slay some sea monsters.
All right. So you're still on the shelf, or have you went past the shelf?
No, we haven't went past the shelf. We stay in. Typical veteran spearfishing trip is 60 to 80 feet. Okay. But if we have some more experienced divers, we'll get into 150 feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you get whatever the hell's down there, or what do you go after?
We're mainly targeting grouper. So grouper season is May 1st to the end of December, typically, and so we'll go as many times as we have available, in weather dependent in those 6 months. So I think last year we averaged about 2 trips per week, and we're hoping to get at least 3 trips per week this year.
Okay. You got any cool stories about dives, or any cool stories about like veterans you've helped?
Let's see. Let's see.
Which one to pick?
I'll tell. So Bill Shantz he's in his 60s, and I think he was in recon in the 70s, the 90s. He has some broken time service, but he's an old salt dog, Force Recon Marine, and my first encounter with him is when I was a 20-year-old Force Recon Marine, and he did room inspections when I lived in the barracks, and I think I left a wall locker unlocked, and he just completely thrashed my room, just tore it to pieces. And he lit into me and for leaving my stuff unlocked. So that was my first encounter with Bill Shantz, but very well known in the reconnaissance community. And I heard that he was still living in the area. Okay. So when I thought of veterans, I wanted to connect with people that maybe didn't have a job or something going on, a lot of family in the area, and I wanted to connect with people that had really touch them and be meaningful for them. So he was one of the guys that I thought of, and he shows up, and he's in his 60s, and he hasn't probably dove in 20 years, and he's a fireball, but to see him come out on the boat and not dive in 20 years, and to see his eyes light up, and, oh my gosh. He's a joy to have on the boat, and he likes coming and just spending that time with younger Marines too. So he'll come and help out on the boat when we take younger Marines, and you can see the fire, the inspiration that it gives him to be out and to get out on the water and do stuff that he did in the 70s. I mean, as a Force Recon Marine in the 70s, this is stuff that he did, and so it's cool to still give guys like that an opportunity to do, and they wouldn't probably get that opportunity if it wasn't for Spirit.
I think we get used to this like pace, like the war you were talking about. It was just every 3 days or every day, you know, just in the mix, running mish, right? Intel drives mish, and you get more missions, and you're around type A personalities. I mean, literally, these guys could do anything they wanted. Like, they're physical specimens, they're hyper intelligent, they could be the best of stock traders, they could be in the NFL, but these dudes choose to serve in the military. You meet some of the most interesting people ever, right? And then you're plucked out of the community, and you're like, okay, where are my boys? And it's all too common, like, immediately for guys like us. And Bill, you said his name was?
Yeah.
Just to, like, be in a situation, and, like, that's all you crave is just being around the dudes and having that bond and everything. And doing something, whether it be spearfishing, riding motorcycles, whatever the heck it may be, right? But it brings you all together to have that bonding time.
Yeah, and with a lot of guys, too, and with myself personally, you can only be an armchair quarterback for so long. It's like you can sit on the couch and say, "Oh, I was back in the day. I did this and did that." But if you're not getting out and doing it, for me, I shell up and I'm not to my full potential. So bringing guys out of their shell, so to speak, really shows them their full potential, in my opinion.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's called Spirit?
Yes, Spirit Veteran Spearfishing Project.
Okay. And what's the website to that?
So it's actually an outdoor project under Operation Barnabas. So Operation Barnabas is handling all the finances and the logistics, so we can focus just on spearfishing.
Okay. All right. And you're showing me the guns here. They're surrounding us everywhere, but
yeah, this is one of the guns we use. It's a 62-inch or 54-inch free shaft spear gun, and yeah, got a couple bands on there, and this is what we slay the sea monsters with.
It's intimidating, man, for sure. I couldn't take my eyes off it the first time you took me here. It's just amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you buy that?
This is actually one of Randy's old guns.
Okay. Because it looks like it's got some season to it.
Yeah, he used this in Florida when he was doing commercial spearfishing with a local Florida guy, Dan McMahon, a well-known spearfisherman in Florida.
Okay. That's amazing, man. So, all right. And you guys are you're running with it right now. I mean, you're getting veterans, you're helping veterans.
Yeah. Right now, like I said, last year we took 65 veterans spearfishing. This year we're hoping to do 50 trips and reach over 100 veterans.
Awesome, man. Always moving forward, always moving up.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, doing God's work.
Yes, sir.
I love it.
Yes, sir.
So what, moving into the future here, do you have any more tricks up your sleeve?
No, I like... For me, I need to have a good balance, like we discussed, with faith, family, and friends, and giving back in some way. I think we all need to have a strong sense of purpose in each one of those elements. So for a while after I got out of the military, I wasn't very active, and I was having back pains and whatnot, and I got lazy. And jiu-jitsu helped me out. I think it was a physical therapist, told me about, it was a female, and she said, "You know what helps me? You wouldn't think it helps your back, but she got into jiu-jitsu, so she offered it, and I started going to jiu-jitsu in Florida, and man, my back pain just went away, and I think it was me being active, but I joke around with the wife, if I don't go to jiu-jitsu training every 2 or 3 days, I get more cranky. Mm-hmm. So it does positives for my mental and physical, but I think we all need something, whether it's jiu-jitsu, spearfishing, yoga, gotta stay involved in something.
I love it. I love it. As a jiu-jitsu guy myself, and that was before the Army, mostly because then joined the Army and never had time for it, and then got hurt, back injury, and then now I'm scared to death to do jiu-jitsu because I've done it in the Army and then not been able to walk for like a week, but talking to you, and then, it kind of like reinvigorated that in my heart. I'm like, man, I need to get back into it. At least try it, baby steps, but like, I love hearing your stories. You just did a competition like a week ago, right?
Yeah. I'm 42, so I'm a little past my prime, but man, I enjoy it. It's something I get to do with my kids too. So
they're all in it.
My 7 and 5-year-old are.
Okay.
So for me to be a little past my prime and still kind of show the kids, hey, if I'm still out there doing this, it kind of gives them it feels to me like it's a way I could still inspire my kids to stay active.
And it's the coolest thing in the world to watch. My little guy, Lincoln, does jiu-jitsu, Henzo Gracie in Clarksville, Tennessee. And it's amazing just seeing him and how he naturally takes to stuff. And I remember when I was young that I took to it immediately. And he has the same style, just balls to the wall, aggressive, like almost wrestling type style, which is definitely not jiu-jitsu style. You know that?
Yeah.
It's just fun to watch your kids, man, in action. Like, that's part of being a dad. That's a blessing.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
I love that, man. So, all right. So jiu-jitsu, I got to ask now. So how many combat deployments do you have?
3 combat deployments, 1 to Iraq and 2 to Afghanistan.
Okay. So you've been war to war, war intimately, the good and the bad about it, right? This is a very open-ended question. What is your take on war?
I have mixed feelings. One of the most gratifying things that I've done in combat is my deployment to northern Afghanistan and doing village stability operations where you actually work with the locals and you're side by side helping them defend themselves and you have such a sense of purpose, like you're actually saving some of these people.
For sure, yeah.
But then at the same time to find out our leadership, not 2 years after we were there, we pull out all of our forces out of there, and the Taliban just takes over the whole place anyway. So was it worth it? I'm not the one to judge that. I have mixed feelings about that.
But you do what you can, right?
But I do my part. I think that's all we all can do to some extent is do your best and I don't. A lot of civilians that, hey, should we be over there? Should we not? And I try to give the best, the most honest answer I can. I did the best I could with the orders I was given, and hopefully maybe I changed a life or saved a life over there that wouldn't have been saved.
I like it. Affect what you can change. I mean, it's a very stoic outlook, and you kind of have to be like that because, like, if we were to do all that hard work, look at the end result of Afghanistan, Iraq, thankfully Syria, I mean, God bless them, they're still fighting, but I mean, there's still hope, right, in some of these other places. But I mean, God, if we depended on the political outcomes of some of the stuff we did, I mean, we would all be in a much worse spot, I think, because that side never seems to work out very well.
Yeah.
And then that's hard to see as we've lost our brothers, and seeing the detriment of war, children and just innocent people, whoever they are, right, that are impacted or killed by it, so it's a tough equation. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And the analogy, this goes for anything, but I mean, you got a rear view mirror that is only this big, and then you got a windshield that is this big. You can't spend too long looking in the past. And if you do, if that perspective of that rear view mirror gets too big, you're not going to be able to see what you need to see in the future. I think that applies a lot with the mistakes that we've made in combat and the mistakes that we've made in life. If you focus too much on what happened in the past, you're not going to reach your full potential in the future. So.
Can I steal that?
Yeah.
I like it, man. That's good. All right, so what is your take? Now, you got 4 kids, right? And now as they come to age, right, you have a 17-year-old?
Yeah.
And they want to join the military, Marines, whatever, right? What do you say? What's your take on service?
Once again, mixed emotions. I think the military can provide a lot of structure and discipline
Okay.
to individuals, and dependent on the person, I think it can cause a lot of harm too. I'm going to be supportive of any decision my kids make. Each child is different. Obviously, am I going to be a little bit more concerned if one of my kids does it than the other, because one's a little strong-willed and the other's a little bit more emotional.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to support any decision they make, but yeah, I think I would be okay with them joining the military.
Okay, yeah. So you don't regret it at all, the
No.
decision you made as a young man?
No, I think it did good for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, knowing the man that you are, definitely. So that's your take on war. That's your take on service. What is your take on God?
So my take on God is each day I try to do my best to live Christ-like. I fail daily. I tell people when I left treatment, I used to explain through my story is to people that maybe didn't understand God or didn't have a strong belief in God. I would tell them, look, every you always have a choice in life. There's always a left and a right. And when I was at the top of my game, I could compare it to every decision I made. I could look down and imagine my oldest son, my newborn OC4, being right there looking up at me, waiting for me to make that decision. We all every day we get faced with multiple choices. If I can make a decision with him sitting next to me, that's good for him. I think I'm living in Christ-like, in God's eyes, a good life.
A decision that he'd be proud of looking at.
Yes.
That's an amazing outlook, man.
Well, and a lot of people you try to connect with, it's the whole, hey, a preacher, he has a mission to within the church, but a lot of times, and I've said this before, but a lot of times somebody that's been raised in church and been in church his whole life, he hasn't been in that same mud that those guys that are homeless or addicted or struggling with alcohol. He hasn't been in that same mud, and he can tell them about Christ, and but at the same time, it's not going to be as receptive as somebody that has been in that same mud hole as the person struggling. So if you can relate it to them in some sense, so that's why I kind of share that story. Everybody can relate to having a kid for the most part, and if you're making decisions upon your son, it's essentially the same as making a decision in the eyes of God, in my opinion.
I love that, man. I do. I really do. And if you look at it, I mean, Jesus chose the people, his disciples, right? And he had thousands of followers, but he chose and selected those few. And even Matthias, right? After what's his face sold out Judas, sold out Jesus. They chose to make a 12th, disciple before going out and spreading the word and everything. So it's amazing. I just imagine being on the shore right now, and we're on a fishing boat, and you're a fisher now, and you change your life towards that, right? And you may be an imperfect man, but we're all fallible humans, right? I'm not perfect by any means. And now, Jesus said to Andrew and Peter, I remember reading, not remember, but they're out there fishing, they got their boat, right? And they're imperfect, right? And he said, follow me and I'll teach you how to be fishers of men.
Yeah.
So even if you're not doing that explicitly for Christ, but it sounds like you definitely are. I mean, look at your shirt there. You're definitely doing it for fellow veterans as well. You've been called to be a fisher of men, and that's why I'm honestly humbled and pleased to know you and call you a brother. So ladies and gentlemen, amazing interview, amazing man. This is Trey's story. Hear it, feel it, and let it be a call to action. Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, Micah.
Dude.
Awesome.
It was freaking awesome.
Sorry.